Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some Entitled Parents. Before we start, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and a subscription a day keeps the Karens away. Alright, our first story today is actually a two-parter story and update that comes to us from ListenSweet. It's titled, Entitled Cousin Thinks His Daughter Needs to Play with My Collector Doll. Let's jump right in. Entitled Cousin and I are close, and I love him dearly, but he spoils his daughter rotten and lets her do whatever she wants ever since he got divorced. As a result, she's kind of a brat. I collect Disney Store dolls, and every time they come over, his daughter sneaks into my room and plays with my dolls. I didn't want to say anything, but she plays roughly with dolls and has messed up their hair on a few and a broken leg off one. So I bought some other dolls and gave them for her to play with so she didn't grab any of mine. Recently, I bought a limited edition doll. They are expensive and a collector's item. I placed the limited edition doll high up on the shelf and always closed the door to where I stored the dolls because it was common for Entitled Cousin and his daughter to come over with no notice. Yesterday, Entitled Cousin and his kid came over, and daughter went straight to where I stored my dolls. She saw the limited edition doll and wanted to play with it, attempting to climb the shelf. "Oh, no hun, don't do that, you'll get yourself hurt." "But I want to play with that doll," points to the limited edition doll. "Oh, sorry dear, but you can't play with that doll. It's very expensive, and she isn't meant to be played with." Entitled Cousin piped in, "Are you serious? It's a doll. It's a kid's plaything. Look, it's fine if she plays with the other dolls. I don't care. But she can't play with that one. It's a limited edition doll, and it's a collector's item." "Daddy, I want that doll." At this point, she was about to throw a tantrum. "I'm sorry, but hey, why don't you play with the other dolls I gave you? They're much better than that doll." "No, it isn't. I want it now." "Ugh, always with your toys, cuz. Let her play with it. She's not gonna mess it up." Now I'm getting angry. Entitled Cousin, she can play with any other doll except that one. Please respect that. Daughter began throwing a temper tantrum at this point because I was the only other person besides her mom to utter the awful, horrid, disgraceful word of no. "I'll get it myself then. All my daughter wants is to play with a toy." I tried to stop Entitled Cousin, but once he put his weight on the shelf, it fell. A mess of dolls was on the floor. At this point, I was pissed. I grabbed the limited edition doll before his daughter could and told them to leave. Entitled Cousin just rolled his eyes at me, said I was immature, and left, slamming the door. My aunt, mom of Entitled Cousin, came over to help me pick and set everything up again. She apologized for her son's behavior. I told her it wasn't her fault, and I took her to a nice restaurant as a thanks. Over dinner, she told me that this wasn't the first time Entitled Cousin had done this. His daughter broke a vase, which was important to my grandfather, and Entitled Cousin blamed grandfather for not putting it somewhere safe just a week ago. Haven't heard from Entitled Cousin since the incident, and I honestly hope I don't for a while. OP added an edit down at the bottom of this post. It says, "Edit. Thank you all so much for your feedback and support. Unfortunately, while I was inspecting all my dolls, some of them were damaged. Not to mention the shelf wasn't sturdy either. The weight and fall affected it. I sent Entitled Cousin links to all the dolls he and his daughter damaged, plus a new shelf, and explained to him that he is going to replace all the things he has damaged. Haven't gotten a reply yet, but I will update if I do." As luck would have it, about a week later, OP posted an update, and here it is. It says, "Update on Entitled Cousin, who thought his daughter needed to play with my collector dolls." Let's jump right in. This situation has been rather messy to say the least. First off, I wanted to thank you all for your support and advice. It was greatly appreciated. Some of you suggested I tell him to pay for the dolls his daughter damaged, and I did so. I can't post images on this sub, so I'll just transcribe it here. "Hey Entitled Cousin, your daughter and you damaged some of my dolls and even my shelf. I'm gonna need you to pay for the damaged items." I sent him links here. Disney Store dolls are not cheap, especially the Prince dolls, which are hard to come by, and those were among the ones he damaged. Are you kidding? I don't have that kind of money for your little doll collection. This wouldn't have happened in the first place if you just let my daughter play with one of your dolls among the dozens you have. This wouldn't have happened if you didn't raise your daughter to be so entitled. I get it, divorce is hard for any kid, but giving her everything she wants isn't going to help. Try therapy. You think you can tell me how to raise my kid? Go ahead and F yourself. Don't tell me how to parent, and I'm not paying for your stupid effing toys. Entitled cousin, I will take this to small claims court if I have to. Pay what you damaged, it's easier. And sorry to break it to you, but I think if I need to tell you what to do to raise your kid, your daughter has become a problem for the family. I was boiling angry at this point, and entitled cousin didn't reply for a while. Then I heard a knock at my door. I checked the peephole, and I saw a very pissed off entitled cousin. He was pounding on the door and said if I had a problem with his little girl, I needed to say it to his face. He then began to try to open the door and screamed obscenities at me. I got scared at this point, but luckily my older brother who I lived with pulled into the driveway, and with the threat of calling the police and a baseball bat, entitled cousin left. I told entitled cousin's mom, my aunt, about this, and she wanted to set up an intervention. She didn't want her son acting like this and didn't raise him to be so violent and an entitled parent, she told me. Anyway, just yesterday, aunt, my older brother, and entitled cousin's ex-wife invited him to my aunt's house to settle this. Shortened story of the showdown that went down, aunt started by saying she expected better of him, and his ex-wife said that giving their daughter everything she wants is not healthy. She was going to have some serious issues with men growing up if a lot of women in her life said no, and her dad said yes. A screaming match between entitled cousin and his ex-wife ensued after he said that, but his aunt managed to calm them down. I told entitled cousin all I wanted was for him to pay the damages he's done, or I take it to court. After a lot of convincing from my aunt, he did replace all the dolls and the shelf he damaged. I've had enough of entitled cousin's BS at this point, and I got what I needed, so my brother and I left. His ex-wife told me that it was all just a big argument from there, and that she wanted to try to get custody of their daughter after I told her that he tried to get into my house. She said that he was prone to violent outbursts, but didn't have any evidence when the divorce came. Lucky for her, I have outdoor cameras, as I do order expensive dolls, and porch pirates are common where we live. And I have footage of entitled cousin trying to get into my house. I gave her the footage, and if I need to testify in court, I would. I've decided I don't want a relationship with entitled cousin anymore, especially after all this. For now, I'm just setting up my new shelf. Jumping down to the comment section in this one, we have one from a user called RexHavoc879. It says, I think his reaction to finding out the price of the dolls says a lot about him. Any halfway decent person would have said, wow, I had no idea the dolls were so expensive. Now I understand why you didn't want my daughter touching them. I am really sorry. Instead, he basically said, you are out of your mind if you expect me to pay that. It's not my fault that you paid so much for some stupid dolls. In other words, he tried to blame OP instead of accepting responsibility for his mistake. Someone who tries to throw you under the bus to save their own skin is not your friend. They might be good to you when times are good, but when times get tough, they'll stab you in the back. I feel like we let family get away with a lot more than we really should because of that age-old excuse of, but they're family. No, toxic is toxic. Full stop. You sometimes need to cut those people out. The entitled cousin's reaction to this whole thing leads me to believe that they were an entitled brat when they were growing up. And if they're able to keep doing this in front of their child, that child too is going to become an entitled brat. I really do hope that the child's mother in this case does get custody, and maybe that kid can grow up a little bit normal, but who knows. This next story comes to us from SomewhereUnlikely. Entitled Karen almost unalives herself and her kid. Let's jump right in. This isn't my story. My dad is friends with a train engineer, and he would always be super nice to me and my family. And he told us this insane, crazy story. Info you will need to know. So this story is about a train engineer, and as everyone knows, trains can't stop on a dime. But the important info you will need to know is about wheel slips. Sometimes, trains can have a failed start or stop and slide across the track because the wheels lose traction. If a train goes into a wheel slip while stopping, it's extremely difficult to stop. Wheel slips are usually caused by weight distribution or not being able to gain traction. If a train has too much weight, it can go into a wheel slip easily. So the people who load the train need to make sure that it's just the right amount of weight distribution. On to the story. So let's call my dad's friend Tom. Tom was on his normal route, and in the conductor's seat is someone we will call Bill. Tom was going around 70 miles per hour and was about to come up on a crossing. In the distance, you could see a car on the crossing. He thought that the arms hadn't gone down yet and cars were still crossing, as it was still a ways away. As he got closer, he noticed a car was parked on the crossing, and a woman and a kid were standing beside it on the tracks, holding up a sign that Tom couldn't read. But he immediately knew this was bad. He slammed on the emergency brakes and blew the horn as loud as he could to try to warn the woman. As he got closer and closer, she wouldn't budge. But then, the train went into an unexpected wheel slip. I'll explain why after. And now, they were sliding at high velocity and heading straight towards the mom and presumably her son. Bill and Tom were panicking, letting trains nearby know what was going on. People who saw the occasion were yelling at the woman and her kid, and as they were approaching her, people realized she wasn't going to budge or do what her sign stated. People ran and came and pushed her out of the way. Then, a few moments later, Tom and Bill slammed into the car, and since they were in a wheel slip, they couldn't slow down. Luckily, after a bit, Bill and Tom managed to gain traction again and stopped 2.5 miles later. Bill and Tom were scared to death about the mom and the kid, and despite their protocol, they jumped out of the engine and ran to see if her and her kid were okay. Luckily, they knew they would be there because the police would need to ask questions. After apparently, according to Tom, what seemed like forever, they finally made it back to the crossing. They found the mom and the kid, and she wasn't there because she was stuck, she was protesting. The entitled mom proceeded to have a conversation, something like this. "Finally, now I want you to meet my son. He wants to ride in your train." "What?" "I want to be a train driver. Can I go pull the horn?" "Sorry, kid. No, we can't allow that." "Let him do it. He's just curious. Besides, you owe us one since you attempted to kill us." "Why's that?" Before entitled mother could proceed to yell at Tom, Bill found the sign and told Tom to read what it said. The sign stated, "Stop crashing into cars because you're too lazy to stop and enjoy the fun of demolition. Embrace the new generation." What are you trying to say? The whole thing about trains can't stop on a dime is an old wives' tale. Admit it, you don't stop because you enjoy crashing into cars. What? No, we don't stop because we can't stop. I've heard it all before. I'm tired of being lied to. Okay, well, it's not a lie. Besides, a crash like this creates a huge inconvenience for our schedule, and we have to try to work around this. We don't do it for fun. What do you mean by embrace the new generation? I've tried to stop so many trains time and time before because my boy wants to be able to blow the horn and see what the inside looks like. He wants to be a train driver when he grows up too. You guys are so lazy, you just wave. Too selfish to let the new generation be excited to be a train driver. You guys are so selfish. Ma'am, if we could, we would. I have wanted to let a kid be able to come inside the cab for so long, but you must understand that everyone's on a tight schedule. Stopping can put a lot of people in danger because if we aren't in a siding at a specific time, it can delay schedules and trains can accidentally be let onto the line you're on and can cause a head-on collision. Oh, shut up. You guys aren't on a tight schedule. I've been waiting here almost all day and it took forever to see a train. We got so bored and we needed to find things to do. You know how many people I had to tell off? I got so many questions about why I was there. I said I was just putting coins on the track. Each time someone came by, I had to look busy. We put a lot of coins on there. Oh, I need to check them and go see how they turned out. Tom's and Bill's faces grew red with anger. You did what? Me and my son put coins on the track. Is there a problem? How many? I lost count. We put so many on. Tom was furious because he realized why he went into the unexpected wheel slip. There were so many coins, and he was traveling so fast that the train lost traction, and they went into the wheel slip that put many in danger. Tom screamed and yelled at the woman and asked how could she be so stupid. Tom told the officers what had happened, and she was charged for trespassing, and she committed a felony by making her car get hit on purpose. So, Karen had a lot of bills to pay and spent just a small time in the slammer, and her entitled kid didn't get what he wanted. Everybody was okay, but man, this story when Tom told my family made us drop our jaws, and I hope it did the same for you. Okay, first of all, I don't necessarily think this person is a Karen. I think they might be a person with a severe mental illness. Because anybody who has their wits about them would never park a car on train tracks. That is a moronic move. Unfortunately, we don't have any follow-up to this story, but I'm really hoping that somebody called CPS, or whatever it's called wherever these people are from, and had that child taken away and put into a place where they can be raised with a normal person. Because if they were allowed to stay with this lady, they are severely in danger. Going back to the part about putting coins on the train tracks though, I never knew that that was illegal. And I do remember when I was younger, my parents putting a penny on train tracks so that it would get squished out and then we'd have this really neat flattened penny afterwards. But I guess that was dangerous and don't do that, okay? Check out both OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day and we'll see you tomorrow.